Hello, folks. In this video, I want to take a look at a song from my childhood and possibly from your childhood, too. It's got a lot of chords going on in it, which is going to be a really fun way to kind of expand our vocabulary and maybe try out some of these weirder chords in the context of a song you may know very well. This is Winnie the Pooh. We'll run through a quick chord review. The PDF should have all of these chords written on them. So if any of these aren't familiar, just take a little bit of time and work those chords out, and you can always come back to this video when you're ready. I'm just going to go across all the chords we've got at the top of the Winnie the Pooh tablature PDF. So I have a G minor 7 chord. That's where I'm barring the first fret of the A and E strings, second fret of the C, and open G. I have my C7, I have my F chord, and I have a F diminished chord. Now, this might look pretty familiar to you. It probably looks like a D7 chord. And it is a D7 chord. It's also an F sharp diminished chord. So we'll talk a little bit more about that later. We have an F major 7 chord. This is one of my favorite chords to play, where I'm holding the fifth fret of the G string, the fifth fret of the C string, and my E and A strings are open. Lovely chord, and it fits beautifully in this song. I have an A minor chord. I could play the regular old A minor that you know and love, but I am adding the third fret of the A string to this A minor chord, because that happens to be the note where the melody sits. So I'm throwing that in. Feel free to use whichever version of A minor you are most comfortable with. We have a D minor chord. We have a G7 chord. And finally, we have a B7 chord. Fun chord, fun spot in the song. So here I am barring all of my strings at the second fret, and then I am adding my second finger, my middle finger, to the third fret of the C string. So it looks kind of like that, and you'll see it in the chord diagram as well. All right, so I'm going to start walking through the song and just kind of playing and singing it relatively slowly. This is an interesting song because for a song from a children's film, it is a kind of a complicated song. I suppose not complicated, maybe sophisticated is the better word. We are using some interesting chords. We've got some interesting harmonies going on, and the chorus of this song had tripped me up for a while back in the day. So we start off in 3/4 time. So we're kind of feeling like a waltzy 3 beats per measure. Ba 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 ba. Deep in the 100-acre wood. Now you'll see on the chords and lyrics page, I do have that written out as a D7, because that's typically how we would know it. And without a chord diagram on that page, I'm just telling you the chord that shape that we're actually going to play. The thing about that D7 chord and its relationship to F sharp diminished. Okay, so what notes are in an F major chord? I'm sorry. So what notes are in a D7 chord? We have D, we have F sharp, we have A, and we have C. Now, what notes do we have in an F sharp diminished chord? We have an F sharp, an A, and a C. So that's 3 of the notes in from the 4 notes that are in our D7 chord. And when I am playing this version of D7, I am only playing an A note, a C note, and an F sharp note. And up here, I've got an extra A note. So I'm just doubling up on my A note. So that D7 chord, in the context of a song that requires a D7, it's going to sound like a D7. But here, in the context of F sharp diminished, it is going to act as an F sharp diminished chord. Anyway, we won't get too deep in the weeds on that for now. know that D7, F sharp diminished, same chord shape. All right, so what did we have? We had deep in the 100-acre wood where Christopher Robin plays. There, I love that F sharp major 7 in here. The melody note is my open A string. Plays. And it sits right on top of that chord beautifully. It's a lovely sounding chord to begin with. Very magical, mystical, perfect for the 100-acre wood. You'll find the enchanted neighborhood of Christopher's childhood days. Now notice I was playing that kind of freely, so I'm thinking about the context of that 3/4 waltzy time throughout that little section right there, but I'm not really worrying about a strumming pattern. I'm kind of keeping it a little bit dreamy. And then when we get into the woods and we start meeting all the characters, that's when we're going to get a little bit more structure and a little bit more rhythm. One of the ways that I'll do that in this case is I'll strum the chords and then just slap my palm, the side of my palm, onto the strings to mute them. And I can do that very rhythmically. I can even knock on the ukulele a little bit if I want a little bit of percussion in there. Those aren't the chords, but you get the gist. Now we're also changing time signatures here. So we are going from 3/4 time to 2/2 time. So basically, you don't need to worry too much about what that means, other than the fact that we are going from 3 counts to a 2 count, or maybe a 4 count, depending on how you're thinking about it. But I kind of think of this as 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and so forth and so on. And it kind of has this kind of like frolicking feel to it as we go and meet all the characters in the 100-acre wood. So let's see what that sounds like. 2. A donkey named Eeyore is his friend, and Kanga and Little Roo. Here, I'll let that ring out a little bit. There's Rabbit and Piglet, and there's Owl. Maybe I'll hang there a little bit for dramatic, because we know who's coming up next. But most of all, Winnie the Pooh. Now, one note that I want to mention in that first line of this section here, a donkey named Eeyore is his friend. The melody kind of rushes a little bit there, and I don't have to, but I really like landing on that D7 or F sharp diminished a little bit early, so it falls in time with the melody. A donkey named Eeyore is his friend. Sounds really neat. I like the way that it comes together cohesively. I could keep that structure of my 1 and 2 and that D7 would fall just after I sing the word friend. A donkey named Eeyore is his friend, and Kanga and Little Roo. But I really like the way those notes come together. It's a little bit more interesting for that D to rush a little bit, kind of like stumbling excitedly. So I like that in there. Once again, play it however you're comfortable. I am playing this a little bit differently than the original recording, and of course there have been many recordings of this song since then, so maybe you have a different memory of this song than I do. Maybe you're coming from a different source, and that is totally fine. It's a lovely song, and it's all about this Pooh guy. So let's get to the chorus, because this is where things get a little weird. Winnie the Pooh, Winnie the Pooh, tubby little cubby all stuffed with fluff. He's Winnie the Pooh, Winnie the Pooh, willy-nilly silly old bear. Now on the page, it looks really simple, right? We've got a C7 and an F, and a C7 and an F. And then there's that weird B7 that gets thrown in there, and that's a little bit odd. But other than that, we've got C7 and F, and that's all there is. So what's so weird about it? Well, the way the melody sits on top of these chords is what's weird. And this would always throw me off when I would sit down, and I was learning this to play and sing this on guitar years ago, and my voice wasn't like lining up. It's like, what's going on? Because we're singing notes that aren't in those chords. So I'm going to jump over to the tab here. And I'm going to look at this section in tab. So the melody is playing an E, D, E, D, and it's doing all that over this C7 chord. Now, there's an E in my C7 chord, that open E right there, but there's no D note in this C7 chord. What's kind of happening is I'm kind of getting a C9 feel. So if I hold this shape right here, first fret of the A and second fret of the C, I get a C9 feel. Winnie the Pooh. And we've got these two notes that are sitting right next to each other, and the melody is landing on this note that really clashes with the note that shares the root name of the chord. So the D and the C note are right next to each other. I actually can't do it on the high G ukulele. I'm just going to grab my guitar really quick, because it's got some more notes on there. So when I'm singing a C note and a D note at the same time, or I'm playing those two notes at the same time, those notes right next to each other kind of clash. It's a little weird. And if I play it up here, if I kind of get like a whole vibe here, Winnie the Pooh, when it sits on top of all of these other notes, it sounds really lovely. But it can be a little bit hard to find. So what I might do when I'm playing it on the ukulele, if my voice is getting a little bit lost, is I will play that C9 shape. So it's just taking that C7 and adding my middle finger to the second fret of the C string. Winnie the Pooh. Then I've got all of those notes in my ear, and it makes it a little bit easier to sing along to. And you can play along with the tab, too, and sing along with that, and that can help guide your voice as well. Winnie the Pooh. Now, in the next measure, we sing those same two notes, E and D, over an F chord. Then it gets even weirder. Winnie the Pooh. It's like, where does my voice go? Because when I'm playing this, I don't have an E note, and I don't have a D note. So now I'm really feeling lost. Sometimes what I'll do on the ukulele to kind of remedy that is play an A minor and add the second fret of the C string. Just like we added the second fret of the C string to that C7 chord, I'm going to add the second fret of the C string over here. So I am playing the second fret of the G and the second fret of the C string. But that's part of what makes this song sound so interesting. It's, again, a very simple melody. It's only two notes that we're singing so far, but already we're getting a lot of interesting interaction with these other chords. Winnie the Pooh, right? So I'm going to sing those two lines. Winnie the Pooh, Winnie the Pooh. Now, I don't have to focus those in. If your voice is really good at finding those notes, you could just play an A minor there. You could also play an F major 7. Because that's kind of what's going on there. We've got an F major 7 or an F6 major 7. Let's see, how would I even do that? I could go like this. Ooh. That sounds interesting and weird. But an F major 7 will sit nicely over that as well. So if you want to just jump back to that F major 7, that's going to sound very pleasant in this case too. Then we get to the next measure with that C7. So now we're back on familiar territory, right? So we're playing just a C7 chord, and the melody is just walking down a bit of the F scale. So we start on a low C, Tubby little, we go up to the B flat, Cubby, A, all, G. So again, all those notes aren't necessarily in that C7 chord, but they're in the F scale, and we're just kind of like breezing through it. It feels a lot more natural to sing those notes over the C7 chord than it was before to just bounce back and forth between two notes that aren't really fitting into those chords, or at least don't seem like they're fitting into those chords. Tubby little cubby all stuffed with fluff, he's... And then we have this weird note, this weird chord in here. Really what this is doing is it's just kind of transitioning from that F back to the C7 in an interesting way. We're using a little bit of chromatic movement to get from one part of the song to another, one note to another. So we have notes that appear in a scale, but we're just adding in a note that doesn't belong in the scale just to transition, make that movement a little bit different. Right? Kind of has a bluesy sound. It's really pleasant. The B7 on ukulele, though, can stick out a lot because the voicing, the way the notes are arranged in this shape of B7, sometimes maybe doesn't sound quite right, especially going from this voicing of B7 to this voicing of C7. One of the things that I might do in this case, especially if I'm just playing this song by myself, is I might, at that section, just play the melody. Stuffed with fluff, he's Winnie the Pooh. Like that. So I play that F chord, and then I just pluck each individual melody note, and then go into the C7, like that. Stuffed with fluff, he's Winnie the Pooh. Winnie the Pooh. Willy-nilly, silly old bear. So there are a number of options at your disposal to play this really lovely song. We can play the melody, we can play the chords and sing along, and of course there are a lot of options to kind of make this song fit that melody, make those chords blend with that melody in a really interesting way. Deep in the 100-acre wood, where Christopher Robin plays, you'll find the enchanted neighborhood of Christopher's childhood days. A donkey named Eeyore is his friend, and Kanga and Little Roo. There's Rabbit and Piglet, and there's Owl, but most of all, Winnie the Pooh. Winnie the Pooh, Winnie the Pooh. Tubby little cubby all stuffed with fluff, he's Winnie the Pooh. Winnie the Pooh, willy-nilly, silly old bear. So give this song a try. Let me know how it goes. You can shoot me an email at tinyvillagemusic@gmail.com. And yeah, let me know if you have any questions. If there's anything about this song that maybe you want to learn a little bit more about, let me know. Thank you for visiting the 100-Acre Wood with me today. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see y'all next week. Take care. Hi, Squeaker. What's up? Oh, it's almost time, but not yet.